From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Chris Terrell Podcast, and I am your host, Chris Terrell, and welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week pan out for you? What new challenges did you encounter? What new failures did you go through? But more importantly, what I'm more interested in, what lesson did you extract from that failure? Come on now, don't let a perfectly good failure go by without you getting your valuable lesson as your reward for your troubles. Now, if you're new here, I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting, up, down again, before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I made some permanent, meaningful, and actual changes to my lifestyle, habits, and routines, to my community environment, and to my system of beliefs, all of which created the weight gain in the first place, so it stood to reason that to get the results of weight loss, I'd need to go and change those on the way down, and I did. And now I'm here each week, helping people like you get the same results in your life. Have you been battling with weight? Have you found it to be a struggle? How's the mindset part of the weight loss journey getting you? I know for me that was a big part. And that is a big part of what we do talk about here. But this week, I want to talk to you about calorie tracking. I have been tracking calories off and on to varying degrees of precision for many years now. And I've picked up a tip or two. I've learned a thing or two from my own experience, but also from the experience of working with others that are also tracking calories. And I'd love to give you 10 of my favorite tips that will help you on your journey. Now, I am tracking right now myself, actually. Right now, I am not tracking to a target because I'm trying to lose weight. I will be going into a cutting phase soon. But right now, I'm just tracking to get a sense of what am I eating and to get a sense of what my maintenance number is. I'm just listening to my hunger and I'm documenting everything I eat. And I've been doing it for a couple of weeks, and I'll be doing it for a few weeks more. At some point, either next week or the week after, I plan to move into a deficit. I'm going on vacation for spring break, so I may or may not start it when I'm there. I haven't really decided. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. I'm going to be a bit of an opportunist. If I see that it's going to be relatively easy to eat at a deficit, I'm going to take advantage of it. But if I see that it's just going to be too tricky, I'll just eat at maintenance. I'm not going to fret about it too much. And then I'll just start the deficit when I get back. Now, before I get into these tips that I know will help you if you're trying to track calories or if you're even just contemplating tracking at some point in the future, I would love to invite you to join my free Facebook group. You can find a link to that by going to christerrellcoaching.com. Or you can find it in the show notes of this episode of the podcast. You can just pull out your phone right now, scroll down the show notes, and you will see a link to the Facebook group there. Come on in. It's totally free, and I'd love to have you there in the group. I also would love to invite you, if you are a Spotify listener and you're down there taking a look at the show notes, you're going to see a little box where you can leave some feedback on the episode. I would love to hear your feedback on this episode, and in fact, any episode that you see that box on, go ahead and fill it out, you, my Spotify listeners, and I'd love to hear from you. I also will be going live every Monday morning on YouTube. I may be going live other times as well. I was going live at Facebook, but Facebook has decided to be a big old stupid head, and they have been copyright striking me for music when there's no music playing, and then taking a week to approve the appeal. That's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. So I made the leap. I just went to YouTube 1 week, said we're just going to try it. It's worked out great. I've loved it. And I have every intentions of continuing streaming there on YouTube. And I'd love to see you there. Now let's talk about the 10 tips for tracking calories. And as I said, I am tracking now. I am using all of these tips now. Tip number 1, don't make tracking a big deal in your own mind. Far too often, a reason why so many of us struggle with tracking is we just make such a big deal about it in our head. Tracking doesn't mean weight loss. That's a big thing that'll help minimize it in your head, so to speak. Tracking is nothing more than just keeping score. That's all it is. It's a scoreboard. Just a scoreboard. Think of it as you would if you went to a baseball game. If you went to a baseball game, there would be a scoreboard telling you what the score of the game is. Whether you're keeping it or not, someone is keeping score. Same too with your body. Whether you are consciously keeping score or not, your body is keeping score. It knows what's coming in, it knows what's going out, and it is making the adjustments all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. Let's take that baseball analogy. Let's now assume you go to a baseball game and there is no scoreboard and they're keeping score, but they're just doing it in the press box. So they're not even telling you about it. You have no way to know what the score is. For me, I don't know that I would enjoy the game as much if I didn't know what the score is. I'd like to know if it's like a clincher, like real close, or if it's like a total knockout and one team's just getting trounced. I'd like to know that. But there's no scoreboard. I could just pull out a piece of paper and keep score myself. And in fact, many people at baseball will do that. They love to get into the stats of the players, and they will keep up with the stats of the players while the game is being played. I've seen many people do that live. So when you're looking at calorie tracking, just think of it as a scoreboard that you can have available to you for your conscious mind's availability. As I said, your unconscious mind is keeping score anyway. You just have no way to get to that score. But you could keep your own score in your own app. Tip number 2, spend some time getting to know the app that you're going to use for tracking calories. I'm a MyFitnessPal user. I will be referencing MyFitnessPal throughout this episode. That's just because it's the one I use. I truly do think it's great, and I actively suggest people use that one. However, if a person comes to me and they're like, well, Chris, I'm using Lose It, I'm not going to be like, well, you should switch to MyFitnessPal. I'm not going to do that. Like, the best one is the one you're going to use at the end of the day. But I think an app should have several great features in it, one of which should be the database, the foods and the calories that are in it, and the various measurement types. MyFitnessPal's database is fantastic, very comprehensive, and it has lots of different unit types, which is really helpful. And it has a whole bunch of other features. It's a pretty comprehensive app. It's been around for a long time. I pay for premium, so I get even more features, which, by the way, if you're trying to lose weight, it's totally worth it. The $70 a year. If you're not willing to invest $70 a year in an app, I'm beginning to question how much you want to lose weight. Oh, I can't afford it. Yeah, you can. You're going to save that in food. Get an app that's going to keep up with everything for you and give you every single feature that you need. I love it when people complain like, oh, MyFitnessPal used a barcode and they put it behind the paywall. I'm like, you should be paying for it anyway. You should be paying for it because you need to get all the features, and you should be supporting the company that makes it so they'll keep making it so that we can use it. MyFitnessPal has saved my life. I think MyFitnessPal and the other apps like it are a godsend. Because I remember attempting to lose weight in the past before such things existed, and it was much harder. So spend some time clicking around. They're complex apps. They do so much more than just record the calories that you have. You can just do it while you watch TV. Just go into the settings and tap into all the menus. It was an embarrassingly long time into my journey before I discovered, because I didn't follow this advice at first, that in the database of MyFitnessPal, there's a little shield button above the list. If I tap that button, it shows me only verified options in the search results. That's a big deal. That is super helpful. I discovered way too late into my journey that I can take and rename all the meals. I can rename them something else, and I don't have to have just 3. I could have 6. I could have 6 different blocks that I could label whatever I want to put calories in. That's such a big game changer. It makes it so much easier to analyze my data. So that's tip number 2. Spend time in the app getting to know it. Tip number 3. I want you to figure out the calories of your favorite meals. Hey, you got your go-to favorites. I know you do. You got your go-to favorite breakfasts. You got your go-to favorite lunch meals. You got your go-to favorite dinners. Let's expand this. You got your favorite snacks. My advice is just sit down and figure out the calories of all your favorites and have them loaded into the My Food section, or just make sure you know how to enter them quickly. As an example, I make a breakfast sandwich every morning, but I don't make it exactly the same, so I still enter it every ingredient at a time. But it's really easy. I've searched for it so much that all the things are there in my recent, so I can usually tap them. I got barcodes right there. But some meals, I never change them. I make them the exact same way every single time, in which case I just go through the pain of one time loading it into the My Food section of MyFitnessPal, so I can just go over there and tap it and have it there ready to go. And this goes beyond just the meals that you eat out or you eat at home. You should do this for your favorite eat out meals. Find the meals that you regularly eat out and just go look up the calories. You should be aware of the calories of the foods that are your favorites. I'm not saying you got to give them up. I'm not saying you got to eat them or not eat them. I'm just saying be aware. That's all I'm saying to do. That will make tracking calories so much easier. Now, tip number 4 is to make simpler meals when you're tracking. Tracking is a little tedious. Sometimes, I know. But if you're somebody that wants to make an 18 ingredient dinner, you're signing up to make it really difficult to track dinner. Sometimes tracking is difficult because of your own damn fault, because you keep choosing to eat things that are hard to track. There are so many things out there in this world that are easy to track that you love. Go eat those. Sometimes the answer is just pick a different food. Chris, I want to have it. Then estimate. Some of you out there, we're going to talk a bit more about estimating on a later tip. Some of you out there, you let your perfectionism just rule your life. You don't need to be perfect. Close enough will work. I've been doing it for years, not just with myself, but with others. Close enough will work. But if you are someone that is just going to insist on precision, you can't have it both ways. If you're going to insist on precision, then choose foods that make it easy to be precise. If you're going to be okay with estimating, it opens it up a little bit more. Now, don't be a doofus, right? You know damn well when you're cheating the system here. The only person you're cheating when you lie on the app, by the way, is you. You're the only person. So it's not like you're sneaking a fast one by because you know you did it. So, by the way, when you're tracking your food, all calories still count. Whether you write them down or not, that's fine, right? It's so like I don't usually write the calories of my coffee down. But just make no mistake, your body is keeping score. So when you walk by and take a bite of something that you didn't track because it'd be too complicated to figure out the calories of that bite, your body knows how many was in it. And your body is making decisions based off that. So make things simpler and watch your bites. Tip number 5. This is a big one. Remove friction between you and getting into the app and using it. I've got a iPhone 15 Pro Max, I got that when it came out. And one of the cool things about that camera is it's got the side action button. It's a mappable button. I have it now mapped to MyFitnessPal. Wow, I wish I had that feature before. That would have been like really helpful to have that feature before, because I pull up my phone and click a button. Boom, I'm in the app. I'm entering calories. So much easier than how it was before. I have heard, I'm not an Android user, but I've heard that you can map the power button or the home button with a double tap or something, and that will open up. You can map that to opening an app. If that's possible on your phone, my advice is have that set to open up MyFitnessPal. Some other people have told me with iPhone, you can do something called double or triple tap. It's in the settings. I don't know exactly where it is, but you're able to triple tap or double tap the back of the phone. It'll pick up the vibration and it will open, and you could set it to open an app, for example. I have tried that before for something else. I found it to be annoying because I kept triggering it when I didn't want to. So use that one at your own discretion. But the basic concept behind this being, make it as easy as possible to get into the app and using it. Your calorie tracking app should not be buried in folders. It should be on your home screen front and center, or unless it's mapped to a button. Now I leave it in a folder now because I have a button. It's awesome. I have a dedicated button for it. But that friction, it may sound like it wouldn't be the case, but just a few extra taps could be enough to stop you from tracking something. This is also why I like MyFitnessPal, because the moment the app opens, I don't have to touch anything else to begin logging food. I just tap into the search box or I tap the barcode scanner and I'm entering food. So much faster, so much easier. A teeny, tiny bit of friction will stop you from tracking. Tip number 6, don't talk about tracking with everybody, right? Just let it be the thing that you're doing in the background. The only people I talk to about the fact that I'm tracking in my regular life is my wife. That's it. And I don't even talk about it with her that much. She is aware I'm tracking. She knows that I'm tracking. I don't talk about it. I just pull out my phone and I just do my thing. I have been in many, many, many business meetings with in my previous career. I would do it in sales calls. I would take out prospects to lunch, new customers to lunch, my boss to lunch. I've gone out with friends. I've gone out drinking. I've been in every kind of social situation I can think of, out and about with people. And you know what? Not once has anybody given me grief about me tracking unless I've brought it up. If I bring it up, sure, sometimes people give me grief. Sometimes people have the peanut gallery wants to weigh in. But when I don't tell anybody about it, nobody ever says anything. I remember one time I went to a game night. It was early on in my tracking journey. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to track and I'm going to go to game night at a restaurant. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And you know what? I got there. I got the menu. I just took my time ordering. I just realized, you know what? I'm going to be one of those slow people that orders. There's always a slow person. Now it's me. And I was looking through, I found 5 or 6 things that I liked, and I was just going through one at a time and looking up the calories of all of them. until I eventually landed on a Cubano sandwich and I ordered that. No one is going to give you grief unless you give them an opening. So don't give them an opening. Don't talk to people about it. Number 7, check in with yourself every 24 hours to review the prior 24 hours. Once a day, you need to sit down and do an accountability check with yourself. Many of you are looking for accountability partners. Stop. You don't need an accountability partner. You don't. If the only way you're successful is with an accountability partner, I'm not entirely sure I think you're going to be successful in the long term. I'm just being honest. I know there's going to be some exceptions to that, but I think the majority of you will not be successful if you're only successful with an accountability partner. You must be accountable to yourself and yourself only. And so you must come to yourself in that meeting and be nice to yourself. If you're a jerk to yourself when you sit down to have your self-accountability session, you'll stop coming back. I think sometimes some people get an external accountability person because they think that person will be nicer to them than that person will be nice to themselves. And I really want to make sure to stress with you that you are being kind to yourself at your accountability session when you check with yourself. I do mine once a day in the evening because at some point every day I will find myself either A, sitting on the couch with my wife and stepdaughter watching TV, even if it's just for 30 minutes, or I'll find myself in my bed watching, at least right now it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine because my wife's not seen it before. I'm watching 1 or 2 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine with just her. And you know what I do? I pull out my phone, I pull out my Fitness Pal, and I review the previous 24 hours. I look, see if there's anything that I think I missed, because sometimes hey, can we pause it for a second? And I'll get up and I'll go scan a barcode that I forgot. Or I'll look it up in the database and enter it. Sometimes the meal's far gone and all I can do is estimate. That's fine. But I don't end the day without having gone through and made sure I got as much as I think I could. I really want to make sure I get everything in there. That 24-hour self-accountability check is huge. I regularly in that session find things I missed. Regularly. I would say easy 50% of the time when I sit down and do my daily review. It's probably more than 50%, but it's at least 50%. When I sit down and do that review, I find something I missed. Sometimes a whole dang meal. Sometimes I forgot to enter an entire meal. And so I will then enter it at that point. Tip number 8, review your weekly data 1 time a week. Now, you're reviewing yourself daily, which you should be doing, but I want you looking at your calories at least once a week on a week level. Just once a week. You don't got to do this every day. You can, but you don't need to. Just once a week, sit down and review the previous 7 days and think about the upcoming 7 days. The previous 7 days, did they go according to plan? Did it go the way you wanted? Was your calorie limit too low? Was your calorie limit too high? Maybe it was low and it worked, but it was psychologically too difficult. Maybe you need to raise the calorie limit so it's a little more reasonable in your head. You can enjoy it a bit more. Yeah, weight loss will be a little slower, but you'll actually stick with it. Sometimes you got to do that. And then sometimes you're feeling pretty good and you're like, you know what, this week I'm going to bump my calories down for a week and then we'll just see how I do. Maybe I need to raise it. But that once a week sit down is a really great time to have that conversation with yourself. Same advice applies from what I said about the daily check-in. You need to be nice to yourself. If you're being a jerk to yourself, you're not going to show up to your weekly accountability sessions. So if you find that you are not doing your weekly accountability sessions, it's because you don't enjoy them. And if you don't enjoy them, it's because you aren't making it enjoyable. Go make it enjoyable, and then you'll probably start doing them. Tip number 9. They're all important, but this one's really important. This one actually is, of this whole list, I think is probably the most important. Keep your scale for weighing food on your counter permanently. If you look in your kitchen right now, you're going to see your counter has things on it, and it generally has things that you use the most or things that you don't have a home for somewhere else, or things like a KitchenAid that are really heavy and you don't want to move it. Hey, if you're a coffee drinker, I'm willing to bet I'm going to find a coffee machine on your counter. If you're a tea drinker, I'm willing to bet I'm going to find tea drinking stuff on your counter. Maybe an electric kettle if you're not in the U.S., even though I have one because I think they're awesome. Everybody should have an electric kettle. Or maybe y'all have a kettle sitting on the stove. And I'm willing to bet if you're a coffee drinker, you have coffee mugs somewhere quick and easy to get, probably nearby to that coffee machine or somewhere convenient. Why? Because it's something you do all the time and you want to make it as easy as possible for you to do it so you don't have a whole bunch of extra steps. When I first moved into the house with Candace, they didn't really use the air fryer. I use the air fryer all the time. So in their home, the air fryer didn't live on the counter and they didn't have a particularly nice air fryer. It was okay. It was just a little small. I had a bigger air fryer and I use it all the time. So it lived on my counter. It was a regular staple of my life. So when we moved in, we sat and talked about it. We agreed that we'll make space for it on the counter because I use it all the time. And then you know what started happening? Other people started using it all the time. Lots of people started using it all the time. Why? Because it was there. The same thing is going to happen with the scale. If you take the scale and put it away, you will sometimes not use it. And if you put it on the counter and leave it on the counter, you will sometimes use it when you otherwise wouldn't have. That's really important. Just as I said about getting friction out of the way between you and getting to the app, I need you to remove as much friction as possible between your food and determining the volume of that food. And your scale is going to be a critical component of it. If your scale is not living on your counter, you're not serious. It is such a simple thing to do. It is a simple conversation. It is such an easy thing to ask someone to yield on that I can't imagine somebody being so unreasonable that they wouldn't let you have a kitchen scale live on the counter. And if they are, I'm not going to comment on that, actually. I'm just going to move past that one. But I have strong feelings about that. Have your scale on the counter. It will make a big difference. I have tested this with myself. It makes a difference. Now, tip number 10. When you're at a restaurant, just estimate. Now, let me explain who I'm talking to right now. I'm talking to the person that only eats out a handful of times a month. If you just eat out a handful of times a month, 5-6 times a month, just estimate. You don't got to make some big deal about it. You don't got to chase perfection. Again, y'all perfectionists, sometimes you frustrate yourselves too much trying to chase precision. Just go to the restaurant and estimate. If they have the calories, put it in there. Don't worry about it. I've been eating at Chipotle, for example, off and on, or on and on, for years now. Regularly eat there. I assure you, they make it different. Different people make it different, give me different volumes, different amounts. It's all over the place. But you know what? It all works out. I've just been estimating Chipotle for years. When I get a sandwich, it's not always exactly the same. Some places, they keep it exactly the same. Some local places, they don't. All right? When you go out to eat at a restaurant, there's no guarantees it's going to be the calories that was listed on the menu. It's going to be close. Be in the ballpark. So just lean into the ballpark. Now, this is to the people that eat out. So just look it up, estimate, move on. Now, if you're like me and you're a regular eater-outer, I have different advice. I eat out all the time. I've been eating out constantly on my journey. There have been stretches where I cooked at home a lot, like when I was in the pandemic, of course, I cooked at home a lot. And when I started my business, I cooked at home a lot, but that was more from a frugality standpoint, not so much I had a thing against eating out. And so, but outside of a handful of stretches, I ate out over 50% of my meals while losing weight, and I eat out 50% now. I mean, I eat out almost every lunch, and I eat out a lot of dinners. And I eat out some breakfasts. Like I am a restaurant eat out guy. And here's the thing I've learned. You have to have favorites at every restaurant, and you need to know what the calories are of them that you're going to frequent. If you're going to frequent a restaurant all the time, you need 2 or 3 favorites. You need to already know what the calories are, and those calories need to be loaded into the My Food section of MyFitnessPal. It needs to be something you show up and I'm getting this. You don't even have to think about it. I'm getting this. I know how many calories in it. I know that it works in my thing. I got it here in my tracker. I'm just going to tap and order it. You can track calories while eating out. I get frustrated at people sometimes when they act as if eating out makes it where they can't track. That's just some bullshit. Like you're just not even trying. Or you're letting perfectionism stop you from just putting something in. Just something, right? You can estimate. I'm telling you, I estimated so much of the time and it worked out just fine. I have seen hundreds and hundreds of people estimate and it works out just fine. And I am aware of thousands upon thousands that have estimated and it's been just fine. Now, be precise when you can, but don't feel like you got to do it everywhere. Close enough is going to get you there. This is like hand grenades and horseshoes, right? You get close, you still get some points. All right, there's my 10 tips. Hopefully that'll help you on your journey to getting the body and the life of your dreams. Tracking has really brought me a lot of freedom. It's crazy to think about it in that way. But tracking gives me immense freedom with regards to food because I'm aware. It gives me information. I'm not in the dark. Tracking for me, the way I think of it, it'd be like running a company without a financial report. You're flying blind. You could do it, but it's tough. You need to look every now and then. And the same thing holds true with your calories. You don't have to track to meticulous detail all the time, but you got to do it some. You got to do it some. And when you're going to do it, make it as easy on yourself as you can, just like I do. Keep it as easy as possible. Turn down the difficulty setting of your weight loss journey. All right. Hopefully this helps. See you next week on the Chris Terrell Podcast.